Yo, what's good everyone, it's Shamz. Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today, as you can tell by the title of the video, I'm going to be talking to you about spring weeks, what they are, how to land one, and my top tips to ensure that you guys are actually successful in your application. Okay, so let's start off with the very basics. What is a spring week? So a spring week or a spring internship is known as a week-long insight placement basically that you have in the spring, usually in the Easter holidays of your first year of university, or even your second year if you're on a 4-year course. Now it's offered by different companies, mainly in finance, in consulting. I think they have them in law as well, but I believe they're called something else. I think they're called VAC schemes. But yeah, mainly in finance, mainly in consulting. So a lot of the top investment banks, think JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, etc. So the idea is they will basically present the firm to you. You'll meet different people from different divisions. You have a chance to network, and then at the end, usually there's a kind of system in place for you to convert your spring week into a summer internship for the following year, which is basically the main goal of the spring internship. Now, you have to make sure that you're quite astute in your applications because you're going to be applying against thousands and thousands of other applicants. I think one thing that I didn't really realize until I actually did the spring and I spoke to people that I met. For reference, I did 2 spring internships last year, is that you're not just competing with people in the UK, but you're competing with people in Europe. So I remember on one of my spring internships, I met people from Switzerland, from Germany, from France, even I think Finland as well, and they'd come all the way over to London just for that week, just to have a chance, a shot at converting it into a summer internship. So getting a spring internship is very lucrative, very competitive indeed, but hopefully with my top tips, you guys can actually shine your applications and get to the next stage. So tip number 1 is to make sure you have your CV and your cover letter in check. Now, I've seen some CVs from first years when they come to university and they're all a bit disorganized. The layout's not necessarily great. So, use Google, use ChatGPT, use these resources that you have to find out the ideal CV template for finance or for consulting. I know for consulting it's a little bit different, right? And then kind of plug your experiences into that template, because CVs and cover letters, but particularly CVs, is where a lot of these hiring managers, a lot of the firms are gonna filter out applicants. So if your CV is weak, then you're gonna get put to the side and you won't get, considered for these spring internship placements. Make sure the formatting is good. 1 page, all the same font. The size needs to be small as well. Make sure you cut off the sides as well on a Word document. Have it as a Word document and a PDF as well. I know that, for example, if you open up your CV in a Word document for certain laptops or for certain systems, the CV will become all over the place, which is not, of course, ideal. So you want to have it as a Word document and a PDF, and then ideally I'd recommend sending it off as a PDF, just so that it's 100% clear to the reader. There's going to be no formatting issues when the HR manager actually opens it. Make sure you quantify everything if possible. If you've applied to a program, or if you've done a program in, let's say, 6th form, then quantify it. Maybe find out how many people applied to the program, how many people were on the program itself. If you do like a group project, I know a lot of these kind of internship work experience placements, you do a project, did you finish first? Did you have a high score? Quantify it and then put that in bold as well, so that when the HR manager is actually reading your CV, it comes out straight away. You want to make it very readable. Don't have any jazzy fonts. This CV is not meant to be something that is like a work of art. But that being said, when someone reads your CV, you want the reader to read your CV and think, every single thing you've done, every single internship or work experience, whatever it may be, or a job that you've worked, for example, and you want to quantify everything to show that impact. You just want to show the impact you've had, how you've benefited the team that you're working as part of. So for example, you guys know that I did a gap year. Now during my gap year, I worked in administration. So I put, for example, the number of documents that I filed each week, and then I compare that to other members of my team, for example, in my CV. It's a very quantitative field, and if you're able to quantify what you've done, it shows the results that you have produced. Okay, so my second top tip that I'd give you guys if you want to land a spring internship, is to practice the psychometric / numerical testing. So lots of firms nowadays are going to use these form of testing, whether it's a situational, a numerical, logical, or inductive reasoning. Usually it's always a combination of the four. You want to definitely practice those because, as I said, similar to the CV and cover letter stage, a lot of these firms will filter out applicants based on these scores. So you want to have a pretty respectable score in order to get to the next round. Now, how you practice them, I hear you ask. So to practice the actual psychometric testing, you want to type in on Google psychometric testing for free. You have websites such as Job Test Prep, SHL as well, to practice and refine those skills, because ultimately, for example, you might have people who are studying physics, engineering that can do really complicated mathematics, but when it comes to doing percentages or fractions, for example, ratios too, they may struggle or they may take a bit too much time. And then they will of course be penalized for that in the actual test. So you want to make sure that you've practiced them a number of times. So if you were to get, say, a company gets back out to you and says, okay, look, dear applicant, you're gonna move on to the next stage. It's the numerical test or the psychometric test in general. You're actually prepared for it. I think one thing that I probably made a mistake on, or wish that I could have done differently, even though I did land 2 spring internships, is that I wish I did more of that practice just to make sure that I could get further on in the application process. More so for the kind of situational judgment and how basically you'll behave, behavioral testing as well, I think it's called, is kind of look at the company values, look at what they represent, what they are looking for from their employees, and then take that really into account when you're doing these tests, because these tests, the behavioral ones I'm talking about particularly, are basically there to see if you fit into the firm. So kind of have a look at those values, and then when you're actually doing the test, really think about them, take them into account and think, okay, does this value match this answer? No. Then just by process of elimination, go through each one by one and see, okay, this answer probably fits because of this value of the firm that they have. So my third and final tip for you guys is a kind of a mesh of two. It's number one, to be resilient, and number two, to really take your time. Applications, as you'll find if you're a first year, when you go on and on in your university journey, it's a tough road. You're applying to many firms, you're going up against many other applicants, but it shouldn't be too disheartening. As long as you're resilient and you implement these tips that I've said, and you actually really go the extra mile in order to stand out in your applications, you'll be rewarded for your efforts. It's very easy to see people, for example, on LinkedIn, or your friends, your peers at university, hear them say, oh, I got a free internship at this company, I'm doing it at that company. And it's very easy to compare yourself and fall into that trap, but you just have to follow your own journey, follow your own path, and strive towards it yourself. Now, along with that point, my second of the third point, if that makes sense, is to really just take your time. I think a mistake that I made as well during my first year in applications was I saw all these companies open and think, right, I really need to get into it, start applying, and I just started firing off applications. Now, as much as these finance companies, not so much for consulting because they don't have rolling applications, but for finance companies, as they have rolling applications, which if you don't know what that means, it means that they will look at applications and make decisions as and when they come. They won't wait until the deadline and then make decisions, whereas I think consulting, you find that's a lot more prevalent. So even though that's true for finance, I'd very much recommend taking your time. You don't want to delay it too much near to the deadline, of course, but I think a good barometer would be maybe 2 to 4 weeks after the application has been opened. No more than 4 weeks, because you don't want to get caught too far down on the list of applicants. But at the same time, you don't want to rush into the application not having, a strong CV, not having practiced your psychometric testing. Just to reiterate, don't be too disheartened, don't compare yourself to the people, because there's going to be people that get spring internships and don't get that summer internship from the same company, and then maybe vice versa. There'll be people that don't get a spring internship, but then they do get a summer internship role. Now, my final point I want to say on this video, it's not a point about how to actually land a spring internship, but it's just a word of advice. I feel that some people need to hear, especially if you're a first year. So as I was saying in my last point, it's not all doom and gloom. If you haven't landed a spring internship, don't worry, it's not the end of the world, it's not the end of the road for you in your applications. You can still very much get a summer internship if you put the work in later on. So guys, thank you so much for watching. That is the end of the video. Let me know down below what you thought about my tips. Let me know down below if you have a spring internship in the bag, or if you don't, maybe, you know, what other words of advice, if you're someone who's maybe a second or third year that has done spring internships previously, would you have people? Let me know down below. It's a short video, but I thought let me just pack in what I know and what I feel like I can offer to you guys. So make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.